Maya's hand froze on the crystal champagne flute when she heard the sharp voice behind her. "What do you think you're doing touching those glasses with your dirty hands?" Her heart hammered against her ribs as she turned slowly, the expensive glass trembling in her grip. Mrs. Vanderbilt stood there, her lip curled in disgust, surrounded by 3 other society women who looked at Maya like she was something they'd scraped off their designer shoes. "I was just—" Maya started, but the woman cut her off. "You don't belong here. This is a private event for members only. The help should know their place." The words dripped with venom that had nothing to do with Maya's position and everything to do with the color of her skin. Maya felt the familiar burn of humiliation rising in her throat, the same feeling she'd swallowed 1,000 times before. She needed this job. She needed the money for Zoe's medicine. She couldn't afford to lose her temper, no matter how much these women deserved it. But then a voice cut through the tension like a blade through silk, deep, commanding, with an Italian accent that made everyone in the room freeze. "Is there a problem here?" Maya's breath caught as the crowd parted like the Red Sea. She'd heard whispers about Dante Moretti, the man who owned half of New York's elite establishments, the man whose name was spoken in hushed tones, the man whose dark eyes were now fixed directly on her, with an intensity that made her knees weak. If you want to discover how Maya's life changed forever after this moment, and what happened when the most dangerous man in New York decided she was under his protection, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more powerful stories like this one. 3 weeks earlier, Maya Johnson had stood in the unemployment office staring at the rejection letter in her hands, trying not to cry in front of strangers. "I'm sorry, Ms. Johnson," the clerk had said without looking up. "Without references from your previous employer, there's nothing we can do." Maya had wanted to scream that she'd been fired for refusing her boss's advances, that she'd walked away to protect her dignity, that she'd done nothing wrong. But she'd learned long ago that the world rarely cared about the truth when it came to women who looked like her. She'd walked the 15 blocks back to her tiny apartment in Harlem, her feet aching in the worn sneakers she couldn't afford to replace. Zoe had been waiting at the neighbors, her beautiful 4-year-old daughter with curious eyes and a smile that made every struggle worth it. "Mommy!" Zoe had run to her, and Maya had scooped her up, burying her face in her daughter's braided hair, breathing in the scent of the cheap shampoo she bought at the dollar store. "Hey, baby girl, were you good for Mrs. Chen? I drawed you a picture." Zoe had wiggled down and ran to get her drawing, a lopsided house with stick figures holding hands. "That's you and me in our big house someday." Maya's heart had cracked. Their apartment was one room with a hot plate and a bathroom down the hall they shared with 3 other families. But Zoe didn't complain. She never complained, not even when Maya had to water down the milk to make it last longer, not even when they ate rice and beans for the 5th day in a row. "It's beautiful, baby. We'll put it right here." Maya had taped it to the wall next to the other drawings, the only decoration they had. That night, after putting Zoe to bed in the twin mattress they shared, Maya had scrolled through job listings on her cracked phone screen, squinting in the dim light. Most required experience she didn't have or references she couldn't provide. Her savings, what little she'd managed to scrape together, would last another 2 weeks, maybe 3 if she skipped meals. Then she'd seen it. Catering staff needed for private events, cash paid nightly, no experience necessary. She'd called the number immediately, even though it was almost midnight. A gruff voice had answered, asked if she could start tomorrow, and told her to show up at the Metropolitan Club at 6 p.m. sharp. Wear all black. Don't be late. Maya had shown up 30 minutes early, her only black dress pressed as smoothly as their broken iron would allow, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. The manager, a thin man named Gerald with calculating eyes, had looked her up and down with barely concealed disdain. "You'll do. But understand something. These are high society events. You're invisible unless spoken to. You don't make eye contact. You don't speak unless answering a direct question. And you definitely don't touch anything you're not supposed to. Got it?" Maya had swallowed her pride and nodded. She'd done worse for less money. The first 2 weeks had been exactly as degrading as she'd expected. She'd served champagne to women dripping in diamonds who looked through her like she was furniture. She'd cleaned up after trust fund kids who dropped glasses just to watch her pick up the pieces. She'd smiled and said, "Yes, ma'am," and "Right away, sir," while they made casual comments about those people and the help these days. But she'd gone home each night with cash in her pocket. She'd bought Zoe new shoes. She'd paid the overdue electric bill. She'd even managed to put away a little for emergencies. Then came the Vanderbilt Charity Gala. Maya had known from the moment she walked into the marble-floored ballroom that this event was different. The usual wealthy crowd was there, but there was an undercurrent of nervous energy. Men in expensive suits spoke in hushed tones, checking over their shoulders. Women whispered behind their hands, their eyes darting to the VIP section that was cordoned off with velvet ropes. "Stay away from the East Wing," Gerald had hissed at the staff before the event started. "Mr. Moretti and his associates are using the private rooms. Do not, under any circumstances, go back there unless explicitly summoned. Understood?" Maya had heard the name Moretti before. Everyone in New York had. The Moretti family owned legitimate businesses on the surface, but rumors swirled about their other enterprises: protection, gambling, consulting services that left rivals bankrupt or missing. They were old money and new power, a combination that made them untouchable. She'd kept her head down and focused on her work, refilling champagne glasses and clearing plates. Everything had been fine until Mrs. Vanderbilt and her friends had cornered her. Now standing frozen with all eyes on her, Maya watched Dante Moretti approach with the kind of presence that made the air itself seem to shift. He was taller than she'd expected, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his custom black suit perfectly. Dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and hard lines, except for his eyes. Those dark eyes held an intelligence that was both calculating and, in this moment, dangerously focused. A tattoo peeked out from his collar, some kind of script that disappeared beneath his crisp white shirt, which was unbuttoned just enough to seem casual, despite the obvious luxury of the fabric. "Mr. Moretti," Mrs. Vanderbilt's voice had gone from venomous to honeyed in an instant. This girl was mishandling the crystal and we were concerned about—" "This girl," Dante interrupted, his voice quiet but carrying absolute authority, "has a name. Would you like to share it with us?" He was looking at Maya now, and she felt the full weight of his attention like a physical touch. "Maya, sir," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Maya Johnson." "Maya." He said her name like he was tasting it. Then he turned to Mrs. Vanderbilt, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "And you are concerned because—" Mrs. Vanderbilt's confidence faltered. "Well, the crystal is very expensive and—" "The crystal?" Dante reached out and took the champagne flute from Maya's hand, his fingers brushing hers for just a moment, long enough for her to feel the calluses that spoke of a man who'd done more than sign checks in his life. He held the glass up to the light. "This crystal costs approximately $200. Do you know what I paid for this venue tonight, Mrs. Vanderbilt?" The woman's face paled. "No, Mr. Moretti. $500,000. For one evening. So I'm trying to understand why you're harassing my staff over a glass that costs less than your shoes." His eyes flicked down to the woman's red-soled Louboutins, then back up. "Actually, I'm not trying to understand. I know exactly why." The silence that followed was deafening. "Maya," Dante said without looking away from Mrs. Vanderbilt, "how long have you worked for my company?" The question caught her off guard. His company. She'd thought she was working for the catering service. 3 weeks, Mr. Moretti. 3 weeks. And has anyone explained to you that Moretti Enterprises has a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind? No, sir. Her heart was pounding so hard, she was sure everyone could hear it. Then let me make it clear now. He finally turned back to her, and the hardness in his expression softened just slightly. You belong here. You belong anywhere you damn well choose to be. And if anyone— He raised his voice just enough to carry across the entire ballroom. "Anyone makes you feel otherwise, you come directly to me. Understood?" Maya could barely breathe. She nodded. Dante handed the champagne flute back to her, then looked at Gerald, who had appeared at the edge of the crowd looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Gerald." A word. As he walked away, the crowd dispersed quickly, Mrs. Vanderbilt and her friends vanishing like smoke. Maya stood there, the glass still in her hand, trying to process what had just happened. One of the other servers, a young guy named Marcus, sidled up to her. "Holy shit," he whispered. "Do you know what you just witnessed? Dante Moretti doesn't do that. He doesn't get involved in staff drama. He barely even attends these events himself. Then why did he—" "That's what everyone's going to be asking," Marcus said, glancing nervously toward where Dante had disappeared with Gerald. "And trust me, in this world, when Dante Moretti takes an interest in something or someone, everything changes. Maya looked down at the crystal in her hand, still feeling the ghost of where his fingers had touched hers. She didn't know if that change would be good or bad, but she had the sinking feeling she was about to find out. The next evening, Maya arrived at work to find Gerald waiting for her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You're being transferred," he said, without preamble. Her stomach dropped. "Transferred? Why? Did I do something?" "You're being moved to private service, Mr. Moretti's personal residence." Gerald's jaw was tight. "You'll be working directly for the family household. Better pay, better hours. Apparently you made quite an impression." Maya's mind reeled. "I don't understand. I didn't ask for—" "When Dante Moretti decides something, nobody asks questions." Gerald handed her a card with an address in Tribeca. "Be there tomorrow morning at 8. Don't be late." That night, Maya lay awake long after Zoe had fallen asleep, her mind spinning with possibilities and concerns. Working directly for a Mafia boss? That was a world she knew nothing about, a world that terrified her. But the money Gerald had mentioned, 3 times what she was making now, plus benefits, would change everything. She could move them out of this apartment. She could afford Zoe's medicine without choosing between that and groceries. She could maybe even save for her daughter's future. But at what cost? The Moretti mansion in Tribeca was nothing like Maya had imagined. She'd expected something dark and imposing, maybe with iron gates and stone gargoyles. Instead, the building was a converted warehouse with enormous windows, modern lines, and an understated elegance that spoke of old money trying to look like new money. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an efficient manner met her at the door. "Maya Johnson. I'm Rosa, the house manager. Come with me." Inside was even more surprising. The space was open and filled with light, with exposed brick and contemporary art on the walls. It was beautiful but felt somehow incomplete, like a showroom waiting for people to make it a home. "Mr. Moretti is rarely here during the day," Rosa explained as she led Maya through the space. "He usually returns late evening. Your duties will include general housekeeping, meal preparation when requested, and maintaining his private office. You do not enter his office without permission. You do not answer his personal phone. You do not speak to visitors unless instructed. Clear? Clear. One more thing." Rosa stopped and turned to face her directly. "Mr. Moretti values discretion above all else. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, it stays in this house. Understand?" Maya nodded, though her unease was growing. The first week passed in a careful routine. Maya arrived each morning, cleaned the already immaculate space, and left before Dante came home. She saw signs of his presence, a coffee cup left in the sink, papers on his desk, the faint scent of his cologne, but never the man himself, until the 8th day. She was in his office. Rosa had finally given her permission to clean it, carefully dusting around the papers on his massive desk, when she heard footsteps behind her. "You're very thorough." Maya spun around so fast she knocked over a pen holder. Pens scattered across the hardwood floor, and she immediately dropped to her knees to gather them, her face burning with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Moretti. I didn't hear you come in. I'll just—" "Breathe." His voice was closer now. She looked up to find him crouching beside her, picking up pens. Up close, she could see details she'd missed in the chaos of the gala: the small scar above his left eyebrow, the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, the way his shirt stretched across his shoulders as he moved. "And call me Dante. Mr. Moretti is my father." "I don't think that would be appropriate, Mr.—" She caught herself. "Sir." A hint of amusement touched his lips. "Dante, then, when it's just us." He handed her the pens he'd collected, and their fingers brushed again. That same electric feeling from the gala shot up her arm. "How are you finding the work?" "It's good, thank you for the opportunity." She stood, clutching the pens, trying to ignore how close he was. "That's not what I asked." He straightened, and she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Are you comfortable here? Rosa treating you well? Any problems?" "No problems. Everyone's been—" She hesitated. Actually, everyone had been cold and distant, clearly resentful that she'd somehow gained Dante's favor, but she wasn't about to complain. "Professional. Professional." He repeated the word like he could hear everything she wasn't saying. "That's Rosa's influence. She runs a tight ship." An awkward silence fell. Maya clutched the penholder, acutely aware that she was alone with one of the most dangerous men in New York. But he didn't feel dangerous right now. He felt curious, like he was trying to figure her out. Why did you do it? The question escaped before she could stop it. Do what? At the gala. Why did you defend me? You don't even know me. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his gaze never leaving hers. My mother was a housemaid when my father met her. She used to tell me stories about how the other servants treated her, a poor Italian girl who didn't know her place. They made her life hell until my father made it clear she was under his protection. He paused. Nobody makes that mistake anymore. Maya's throat tightened. I'm sorry about your mother. Don't be. She taught me that dignity isn't given by society. It's something you carry inside, regardless of what anyone else thinks. He reached out slowly, giving her time to step back if she wanted, and gently tilted her chin up. You have that dignity, Maya. I saw it in how you held yourself that night, even when those women tried to break you. That's rare. His touch was fire against her skin. She should step back. She should maintain professional distance, but she was frozen, caught in the intensity of his gaze. The moment shattered when Rosa's voice called from downstairs, Mr. Moretti? Your 4 o'clock is here. Dante's hand dropped and the spell broke. I should go, but he didn't move immediately. Maya, if you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you ask me directly. Not Rosa, not anyone else. Me. Understood? Yes, sir. Dante, he corrected softly. Then he was gone, leaving Maya standing in his office with her heart racing and the ghost of his touch still burning on her skin. That evening, as she rode the subway home, Maya tried to convince herself that this was just a job, that Dante Moretti was just her employer, that the way he'd looked at her meant nothing. But when she closed her eyes, she could still feel his fingers on her chin, could still hear the way he'd said her name like it mattered. She was in trouble. Deep, dangerous trouble. The next morning, Maya arrived at the mansion to find chaos. Rosa was on the phone speaking rapid Italian, her face pale. 3 men in suits stood in the foyer, all of them armed, all of them tense. What's happening? Maya asked one of the other staff members, a young woman named Elena. Security threat, Elena whispered. Someone tried to get to Mr. Moretti last night. They're checking everyone, everything. Maya's blood ran cold. She thought of Zoe, safely at Mrs. Chen's. Thank God her daughter was nowhere near this world. You, stop! One of the suited men, built like a tank with a scar running down his jaw, pointed at Maya. Empty your bag, now. She complied immediately, dumping out her simple purse. Wallet, phone, keys, lip balm, a photo of Zoe she kept folded in her wallet. The man grabbed the photo, studied it. Who's this? My daughter. Maya's voice was steady despite her fear. Name? Age? Where is she now? Her name is Zoe. She's 4. She's with my neighbor. Maya's hands clenched. She has nothing to do with any of this. That's enough, Marco. Dante's voice cut through the tension. He appeared at the top of the stairs, looking like he hadn't slept. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and there was a darkness in his eyes that made him look every bit the dangerous man he was rumored to be. Give her the photo back. Marco hesitated, then handed the picture to Maya. She took it with shaking hands. Dante descended the stairs, his eyes fixed on Maya. I need everyone out except Maya and Rosa, now. The men filed out quickly. Rosa started to follow, but Dante shook his head. Stay, this concerns you too. When the door closed, Dante turned to Maya. I'm going to ask you something and I need complete honesty. Can you do that? Yes. Do you have any association with the Calabresi family? Any debts, any relatives, anything at all? Maya shook her head. I don't even know who they are. They're my enemies, and last night, someone on their payroll tried to poison me using the catering staff. His jaw tightened. I need to know everyone in my household is clean. That includes you. The implications hit her like a punch. You think I... No. The word was immediate and absolute. But I need Rosa to verify your background anyway. It's protocol, not personal. Maya's pride stung, but she understood. In his world, trust was a luxury. Fine. Check whatever you need. Rosa stepped forward. I'll need your full legal name, birth date, social security number, and addresses for the last 10 years. As Maya recited the information, watching Rosa type it into her phone, she felt exposed, vulnerable. Her whole life laid bare for scrutiny. There's one more thing, Rosa said, not looking up from her phone. The daughter. We'll need to verify... No. Maya's voice came out sharper than she intended. My daughter stays out of this. She has nothing to do with anything. She doesn't even know where I work. Dante studied her for a long moment. You're protecting her. I'm her mother. That's what mothers do. Maya met his gaze. If that's a problem, I'll leave. But I won't let this world touch her. Not ever. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Respect, maybe, or understanding. Rosa, skip the daughter. Focus on Maya only. Rosa looked like she wanted to argue, but nodded. Maya, Dante said quietly, go home. Take the day off. Paid. This isn't your burden to carry. I can work. That wasn't a request, but his tone was gentle. Go home to your daughter. Hug her. And know that as long as you're in my employ, neither of you has anything to fear. That's my promise. Maya wanted to argue, wanted to prove she wasn't scared, wasn't weak, but the truth was she desperately wanted to see Zoe, to hold her and be reminded of what really mattered. Thank you, she whispered. As she turned to leave, Dante called after her. Maya, that photo. Your daughter. She has your eyes. Maya looked back at him. This dangerous man who somehow kept surprising her with his humanity. She has her father's smile, she said without thinking. Or so I've been told. He left before she was born. Dante's expression hardened. His loss, her gain. As Maya rode the subway home, she thought about those words, about a mafia boss who defended her dignity, who protected her daughter without even meeting her, who looked at her like she was something precious. She was falling, and she had no idea if there would be anything to catch her when she landed. 2 weeks after the security incident, Maya had settled into a careful routine. She came to work, did her job with quiet efficiency, and tried desperately to ignore the way her heart raced whenever Dante appeared unexpectedly. Which he did often. She'd be folding laundry, and he'd walk through, asking her opinion on a new art piece for the dining room. She'd be preparing his lunch, and he'd lean against the counter asking about her day. She'd be leaving for the evening, and he'd insist his driver take her home, despite her protests about the subway being fine. It's not about fine, he'd said the third time she'd tried to refuse. It's about safe. My employees' safety is my responsibility. But the way he looked at her when he said it made her think this was about more than employee safety. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. Maya was supposed to leave by 6, but she'd stayed late to finish organizing Dante's library, a task he'd mentioned wanting done but hadn't explicitly asked for. She was on a ladder reaching for a high shelf when she heard his voice. You're still here. She startled, the book in her hand slipping. Dante was there in an instant, steadying the ladder with one hand and catching the falling book with the other. His body was pressed against the ladder, effectively caging her in. I'm sorry, she gasped. I should have asked before reorganizing, but I thought, Maya, breathe. He set the book aside but didn't step back. I'm not upset. I'm concerned. It's almost 8. When's the last time you ate? She tried to think. Lunch? That was 7 hours ago. He helped her down from the ladder, his hands on her waist, steadying her. Once she was on solid ground, he didn't immediately let go. Let me guess, you'll go home, feed your daughter, and then eat whatever she doesn't finish. Maya blinked. How did you? Because that's what my mother used to do. She'd work herself to exhaustion, make sure I had everything I needed, and survive on scraps. His hands were still on her waist, warm through her thin shirt. You can't pour from an empty cup, Maya. I'm fine. You're exhausted, and you're too proud to admit you need help. His thumbs moved in small circles against her sides, the touch so gentle it made her want to cry. Let me help you. Why? The word came out broken. Why do you care? I'm just... Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't say you're just anything. You're smart, hard-working, and you love your daughter more than anything in this world. That's not just anything. Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes. She'd been holding everything together for so long. The money worries, the exhaustion, the constant fear that one wrong move would send their lives crashing down. And here was this man, this dangerous, powerful man, seeing through every wall she'd built. I can't afford to need help, she whispered. Every time I've relied on someone, they've left. I'm not going anywhere. He lifted one hand to her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. And neither are you. Not unless you want to. The tension between them was suffocating. Maya knew she should step back, should maintain the professional distance that kept her safe, but she was so tired of being safe, so tired of being strong alone. Dante, she breathed, and his name on her lips felt like permission. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, When she tilted her face up to his instead, he kissed her. It wasn't rough or demanding. It was gentle, almost reverent, like he was afraid she might shatter. His lips were soft against hers, his hand cradling her face like she was precious. When he deepened the kiss, Maya's hands found his shirt, clutching the fabric as her knees went weak. He tasted like expensive whiskey and something darker, something that was purely him. Maya had been kissed before. Hasty, selfish kisses from a man who'd taken what he wanted and left. This was different. This was Dante giving as much as taking, his other hand sliding into her hair, his body pressed against hers but controlled, careful. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Maya's world had tilted on its axis. That was, she started. A mistake, Dante finished, but he didn't let go of her. I shouldn't have. You work for me. The power dynamic. Stop! Maya placed her hand over his mouth. Don't you dare apologize for that. I'm a grown woman. I know what I want. He kissed her palm. What do you want, Maya? The truth burned in her throat. You. I want you. But admitting that felt like jumping off a cliff with no guarantee of landing safely. Before she could answer, Dante's phone buzzed. He closed his eyes, frustration clear on his face. I have to take this. It's important. Of course. Maya stepped back, smoothing her shirt, trying to calm her racing heart. Dante answered the phone, his expression immediately hardening. When? How many? I'll be there in 10 minutes. He ended the call and looked at Maya with regret. I have to go, but we're not done with this conversation. Dante, maybe we should... No, don't overthink this. Don't talk yourself out of it. He pulled her close one more time, kissing her forehead. Go home, hug Zoe, and think about what you want, really want, not what you think you should want. We'll talk tomorrow. Then he was gone, leaving Maya standing in his library, her lips still tingling, her heart full of hope and terror in equal measure. She took a car service home. Dante had left explicit instructions with his driver. As the city lights blurred past, Maya touched her fingers to her lips, remembering the kiss. She was falling in love with a Mafia boss, a man whose world was violence and power, a world she'd sworn to keep Zoe away from. But she was also falling for the man who'd seen her dignity when others saw only a maid. The man who'd protected her, who'd asked about her day, who'd kissed her like she was something precious. When she got home, Mrs. Chen was waiting with Zoe, already asleep in her arms. Long day? Mrs. Chen asked, studying Maya's face. Something like that. Maya took Zoe carefully, breathing in her daughter's scent. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. That man who sent the car, he's important to you. Maya's eyes widened. How did you... I've been around long enough to recognize that look. Mrs. Chen patted her arm. Just be careful. Important men make for complicated lives. After Mrs. Chen left, Maya lay in bed with Zoe curled against her, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Make sure you eat something. Maya smiled despite herself and typed back, How did you get my number? D. I'm a resourceful man. Now stop stalling and go eat. Maya. Bossy. D. You have no idea, but you will. The promise in those words sent heat through her body. Maya set the phone down, her heart racing. Tomorrow. They'd talk tomorrow, and Maya had no idea what she'd say, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wanted him. Danger and all. The next morning, Maya arrived at the mansion to find Dante waiting in the kitchen, cooking. You cook? She couldn't hide her surprise. My mother's legacy. She believed every man should know how to feed himself. He gestured to the spread. Eggs, pancakes, fresh fruit. Sit. We need to talk, and we're both going to eat while we do it. Maya sat, accepting the plate he handed her. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Dante spoke. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, he said quietly. I've hurt people. I've made decisions that kept me awake at night. This life, he gestured around, it's not clean. It's not simple, and anyone close to me becomes a target. Maya's appetite vanished. Your saying last night was, I'm saying you deserve to know what you'd be getting into. If you want this, want me, there are rules. Non-negotiable rules. I'm listening. You and Zoe would be under my protection. Full security detail, better apartment, private school for her if you want it, but you'd have to trust me completely. If I say something's dangerous, you listen. If I tell you to stay somewhere, you stay. Not because I'm controlling, but because people who want to hurt me will use anyone I care about as leverage. And if I say no, pain flashed across his face, then you keep working here. Same job, same pay, same respect. But we stay professional. I won't make this harder on you than it needs to be. Maya thought about Zoe sleeping peacefully in their tiny apartment, unaware of the danger that could come from this choice. She thought about Mrs. Vanderbilt's cruel words, about working 3 jobs and still not having enough, about being invisible her entire life. And she thought about how Dante looked at her like she mattered, like she was worth protecting, like she was worth loving. I have conditions too, she said finally. Dante's eyes lit with hope. Name them. Zoe comes first. Always. If there's danger, she gets out safely before anything else. Agreed. I'm not some trophy to show off. I'm your partner, or I'm nothing. You were never going to be anything less. And, she took a deep breath, you have to promise me that if this doesn't work, if it becomes too much, you'll let me go. No strings, no guilt. Just freedom to walk away. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walked around the table and pulled her up into his arms. I promise. But you should know, I'm a selfish man, Maya. Now that I've had a taste of what it feels like to be with you, I'm going to fight like hell to make sure you never want to leave. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. This time it was a promise, a claiming, a declaration. When they broke apart, Maya was breathless. So what happens now? Now? Dante smiled, that dangerous, beautiful smile that made her heart race. Now I introduce you to my world, and God help anyone who tries to hurt you, because they'll learn very quickly that Maya Johnson is under the protection of the Moretti family. And Zoe. Zoe gets the childhood you never had. Safe, happy, protected. He cupped her face. That's my promise to both of you. As Maya kissed him again, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The transition happened faster than Maya could have imagined. Within a week, she and Zoe had moved into a secure apartment building, one Dante owned, with security that made Fort Knox look casual. The 2-bedroom unit was more space than they'd ever had, with windows that let in actual sunlight, and a kitchen where Maya could actually cook real meals. Zoe had been suspicious at first. Mommy, how did we get this place? Maya had knelt down to her daughter's level, choosing her words carefully. Remember how Mommy got a better job? Well, my boss wants to make sure we're safe and comfortable, that's all. Is he a nice man? Maya had smiled. Yeah, baby. He's very nice. What she hadn't told Zoe was that Dante had also paid off her medical bills, set up a trust fund for her education, and hired a tutor to come to their apartment 3 times a week. When Maya had tried to protest, Dante had simply said, "She's brilliant. Don't let poverty steal her potential." Now 3 weeks into their new life, Maya was learning to navigate the complexity of loving a man who lived in 2 worlds. During the day, she still worked at his mansion. Rosa had been surprisingly accepting once she understood the situation. At night, Dante would visit their apartment, bringing dinner and playing with Zoe like he'd been doing it his whole life. Watching him with her daughter did things to Maya's heart she hadn't expected. He was patient and gentle, getting down on the floor to build block towers and reading bedtime stories with different voices for each character. Zoe adored him, calling him Mr. Dante, with a formality that made him smile every time. But there were also nights when he didn't come, when he'd text her brief messages. Business. Don't wait up. Safe. Those nights, Maya would lie awake worrying, knowing business meant the dark side of his world, the side she couldn't see and didn't want to imagine. It was on one of those mornings after, Dante showing up at dawn with shadows under his eyes and blood on his knuckles, that Maya realized how deep she'd fallen. "Let me see," she'd said, taking his hand and leading him to the bathroom. She'd cleaned his knuckles carefully, not asking questions, just being there. "You should be afraid of me," he'd whispered, as she wrapped his hand. "I know, but I'm not." "Why not?" Maya had looked up at him. "Because the man who hurts people in the dark is also the man who reads bedtime stories to my daughter. Both versions are you, and I'm choosing to love all of it." "Love," he'd repeated, like the word was foreign. "Yeah, love." She'd kissed his bandaged knuckles. "I love you, Dante Moretti. Danger and all." He'd pulled her into his arms then, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "Ti amo," he'd whispered in Italian. "More than I knew was possible." Everything changed the day Marcus called. Maya was at the mansion helping Rosa prepare for a dinner party when her phone rang. Marcus, her former co-worker from the catering service, sounded panicked. "Maya, thank God. Listen, don't freak out, but there are men asking about you. About where you work now, who you're involved with. They're offering money for information." Maya's blood went cold. What kind of men? The kind who carry guns and don't smile. The kind who made Gerald piss himself just by looking at him. "Maya, what have you gotten involved in?" "I need to go." She ended the call and immediately dialed Dante. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. Rosa appeared at her elbow. "What's wrong?" "Someone's asking about me, looking for information." Maya's hands were shaking. "I need to get to Zoe. I need to—" Rosa grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to me. Dante has protocols for this. Your daughter has security watching her right now. You just can't see them. But we need to get you to the safe house immediately." "I'm not leaving Zoe. The security team is already moving her there. You'll meet her. But we need to go now." The next hour passed in a blur. Rosa drove Maya to an address in Brooklyn, to a building that looked abandoned from the outside but was actually a fortress. Inside, Dante's men were everywhere, armed, alert, coordinating on radios. And in the center of the main room, looking terrified but unharmed, was Zoe with Mrs. Chen. "Mommy!" Zoe ran to her, and Maya scooped her up, checking her over frantically. "Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? Are you—" "I'm okay, Mommy. The nice men said we were playing a game, but I don't like this game." Zoe's lip trembled. "I want to go home." "I know, baby. I know." Maya held her tight, meeting Mrs. Chen's eyes over Zoe's head. "They came for her at my apartment," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "But Mr. Moretti's men were already there. They got us out safely." Before Maya could respond, the door burst open and Dante strode in, flanked by 4 men. His face was a mask of cold fury, but when his eyes found Maya and Zoe, some of the hardness softened. "You're safe," he said, and it sounded like a prayer. "What's happening?" Maya demanded. "Who are these people? Why are they—" "Not here." Dante glanced at Zoe. "Let me get you somewhere private." He led them to a back room, smaller but comfortable, clearly designed as a family space. Once the door closed, he knelt in front of Zoe. "Hey, Principessa. I know today was scary, but I promise you, nobody is going to hurt you or your mum. Okay?" Zoe nodded, her thumb in her mouth, a habit she'd broken months ago but reverted to when stressed. "Are you going to keep us safe, Mr. Dante?" "With my life." He looked at Maya. "Both of you. Always." Mrs. Chen volunteered to stay with Zoe while Maya and Dante talked. In the hallway, away from little ears, Dante explained, "The Calabrese family found out about you, about us. They're trying to get leverage." His jaw clenched. "I'm handling it." "How? By doing what? Starting a war?" Maya's voice rose. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. Zoe could have been hurt. She could have—" "But she wasn't." Dante grabbed her shoulders. "My men got to her first. They always will. I told you, I protect what's mine. She's not yours." The words exploded out of Maya. "She's not a thing to protect, Dante. She's my daughter, and I won't let her grow up in this world. I won't let her see violence and fear and—" "Then what do you want?" His voice was harsh with frustration. "You want me to walk away? Pretend we don't feel this? Because I can't do that, Maya. I can't unlove you." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. I don't know what I want anymore. I just want her safe. She is safe. With me, she's safer than she's ever been." Dante pulled her close, and Maya let herself collapse against his chest. "I know this is scary. I know my world is violent and unpredictable. But the alternative, letting you and Zoe go back to struggling, to being vulnerable, to being alone, I can't do that either. So what do? We fight. Together." He tilted her chin up. "You said you wanted to be partners. This is what that means. You trust me to handle the danger, and I trust you to keep us human, to remind me what I'm protecting and why it matters." Maya wiped her eyes. "And if I can't handle it, if it's too much, then we reevaluate. But don't make that decision out of fear. Make it because it's truly what you want." He kissed her forehead. "Sleep on it. Tomorrow we'll talk about next steps. But tonight, you and Zoe stay here where you're safe. And I'm going to go make sure the Calabrese family understands that touching either of you means war." "Dante, I won't kill anyone," he said, reading her concern, "unless they give me no choice. but they need to know the cost of coming after my family. After he left, Maya sat with Zoe, stroking her hair as her daughter finally fell asleep from exhaustion. Mrs. Chen brought her tea and sat beside her. "That man loves you," Mrs. Chen said quietly, "and he loves your girl. I see it in his eyes." "But is love enough?" Maya whispered. "When his love comes with danger?" "No love comes without risk, dear. The question isn't whether it's safe. The question is whether it's worth it." Maya thought about that long into the night, about Dante reading to Zoe, about the way he looked at her like she hung the moon, about having security and stability for the first time in her life, about the fear that had gripped her when she thought Zoe was in danger. By morning, she'd made her decision. When Dante returned at dawn, looking exhausted but satisfied, Maya was waiting for him. "It's handled," he said before she could speak. "The Calabrese family has agreed to a truce. You and Zoe are off limits. It's done." "How?" "You don't want to know." Maya took a breath. "You're right. I don't. But that's part of the problem, isn't it? I want to be your partner, but there are parts of your world I can never be part of." Dante's face fell. "Maya, let me finish." She took his hands. "I've been thinking all night, and I realized something. I've been so focused on what I might lose that I haven't appreciated what I've gained. You gave me and Zoe safety, security. But more than that, you gave us love. Real, deep, protective love. And I'm not willing to walk away from that." Hope flickered in his eyes. "You're sure?" "I'm terrified," Maya admitted. "But I'm sure. As long as you keep your promise, as long as Zoe stays safe, as long as we come first, then I'm with you. For real. Completely." Dante pulled her into his arms, and Maya felt the tension drain from his body. "I love you," he murmured against her hair. "God, I love you so much. I love you too, all of you." She pulled back to look at him. "Even the parts that scare me." He kissed her then, soft and deep, a kiss that felt like a vow. When they broke apart, he had one more question. "Will you marry me?" Maya's breath caught. "What? I know it's fast. I know we haven't even told Zoe about us yet. But Maya, I want you to be my wife. I want Zoe to be my daughter, legally and in every way that matters. I want to build a life with you, a real life where you never have to worry about money or safety or being alone again." He cupped her face. "Marry me. Let me love you both for the rest of my life." Maya's tears spilled over. "Yes. God, yes." As Dante kissed her again, Maya heard a small voice from the doorway. "Mommy, are you and Mr. Dante getting married?" They broke apart to find Zoe standing there, rubbing her eyes. Maya's heart stopped, but Dante just smiled and knelt down. "Would that be okay with you, Principessa? If I married your mom and became your dad?" Zoe considered this seriously. "Would that mean you'd read me stories every night? Every single night? And you'd keep us safe? Always?" Zoe looked at Maya. "Can I say yes too?" Maya laughed through her tears. "Yeah, baby, you can say yes too." Zoe launched herself at Dante, hugging him tight. "Then yes, I want you to be my daddy." Over Zoe's head, Dante's eyes met Maya's. In that moment, Maya knew they'd made the right choice. Not the easy choice, not the safe choice, but the right one. The one that felt like coming home. The wedding was planned for 2 months later. Enough time to do it right, Dante insisted, but not so long that Maya had time to second-guess herself, which she did anyway, constantly. "It's normal to be nervous," Rosa assured her during a dress fitting. The older woman had become an unexpected ally, helping plan the wedding with an enthusiasm that suggested she'd been waiting years for Dante to settle down. "Marriage is a big step, especially when it comes with all this," she gestured vaguely, "complexity." Complexity was a diplomatic way of saying mafia business, and Maya appreciated the tact. The dress Rosa had helped her choose was simple but elegant, off-white lace with a flowing skirt, nothing like the elaborate gowns Maya had seen in magazines. "You're a mother," Rosa had said practically. "White would be hypocritical, and you're too honest for that." Zoe was getting her own dress, pale pink with tulle that made her spin in circles with delight. She'd taken to calling Dante Papa after he'd taught her a few Italian words, and the pure joy on his face every time she said it made Maya's heart ache in the best way. But as the wedding approached, the dangers of Dante's world kept intruding. 1 week before the ceremony, Maya was helping Zoe with her homework when Dante arrived at their apartment, their temporary apartment, since they'd soon move into the mansion permanently, with grim news. "We need to talk," he said, and Maya's stomach dropped. After getting Zoe settled with a movie in her room, Maya faced him in the living room. "What's wrong?" "The Calabrese family is making noise again. Nothing concrete, but my sources say they're not happy about the wedding." He ran a hand through his hair. "They see it as me putting down permanent roots, becoming vulnerable. Are they going to do something?" "Not if I handle it right." He pulled her close. "But I'm increasing security for the wedding. More men, more precautions. It's going to be obvious, and I wanted you to know why." Maya nodded against his chest. This was her life now. Constant awareness of danger, constant vigilance. "As long as Zoe is safe, she will be, I promise." He tilted her chin up. "Are you having second thoughts?" "Every day," Maya admitted. "But I still want to marry you. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." He kissed her softly. "Fear and love aren't mutually exclusive. You can be afraid and still choose this, as long as you're sure." "I'm sure." The night before the wedding, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed listening to Zoe's soft breathing from the next room, trying to imagine their new life. Tomorrow, she'd become Maya Moretti. Tomorrow, Zoe would officially become Dante's daughter. He'd already started adoption paperwork. Tomorrow, everything would change. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dante. "Can't sleep either. Want company?" Maya smiled. "Isn't it bad luck to see the bride before the wedding?" "Only if you're superstitious. I'll take my chances." 20 minutes later, he was at her door, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, the most casual she'd ever seen him. He looked younger somehow, more vulnerable. "Hi," she said stupidly. "Hi." He stepped inside and suddenly they were kissing, urgent and desperate, like they'd been apart for years instead of hours. They ended up on the couch, Maya curled against Dante's chest, his arms wrapped around her. "Are you scared?" she asked quietly. "Terrified." That surprised her. "Of what?" "Failing you. Failing Zoe. Bringing danger to your door." He tightened his arms. "I've never had this much to lose before." Maya lifted her head to look at him. "You're not going to fail us. You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Because you're the man who defended me when I was nobody. You're the man who learned to braid hair for Zoe. You're the man who's fighting every day to be better than your circumstances." She cupped his face. "I trust you, Dante. Completely." He kissed her palm. "I don't deserve you. Too bad. You're stuck with me now." They fell asleep there on the couch, wrapped in each other, peaceful despite everything. The wedding day dawned clear and bright. The ceremony was held at the mansion, in the garden that Dante had transformed with thousands of white roses. Security was everywhere, discreet but present, a reminder of the world they lived in. Maya walked down the makeshift aisle with Zoe at her side. Her daughter insisted on being both flower girl and Maya's escort, and when she saw Dante waiting at the altar in a custom black suit, his eyes locked on her with such fierce love, every doubt vanished. This was right. This was home. The ceremony was simple, officiated by a judge who was clearly in Dante's pocket, but seemed genuinely moved by the occasion. When it came time for vows, Dante went first. "Maya, I've done a lot of things in my life I'm not proud of. I've hurt people. I've made choices that haunt me. But loving you, loving Zoe, that's the one thing I know I'm doing right." His voice cracked slightly. "I promise to protect you both with everything I have. I promise to listen when you tell me I'm being an idiot. I promise to read bedtime stories even when I'm exhausted. And I promise to love you every day for the rest of my life." Maya's tears were already falling when she began her vows. "Dante, you saw me when I was invisible. You protected me when I was vulnerable. You loved my daughter like she was yours before I ever said yes to this." She took a shaky breath. "You scare me sometimes. Your world scares me. But you know what scares me more? A life without you in it. So I promise to stand by your side even when I'm terrified. I promise to keep you human when your world tries to make you hard. And I promise to love you, all of you, for the rest of my life." When the judge pronounced them married, Dante kissed her with such tenderness that the small crowd erupted in applause. The reception was intimate, just close family and trusted associates. Rosa had outdone herself with the food, and Zoe was in heaven, dancing with anyone who'd humor her. Maya watched from Dante's arms as her daughter twirled and laughed, safe and happy and loved. "Thank you," she whispered to Dante. "For what? For giving her this? For giving us this?" She looked up at him. for choosing us. You chose me too, he reminded her, and that's the bravest thing anyone's ever done. The celebration continued into the evening, but Maya and Dante slipped away as the sun set, leaving Zoe in Rosa's capable hands for the night. They'd decided against a honeymoon. Neither wanted to be away from Zoe for long, but Dante had prepared something special. He led Maya to a wing of the mansion she'd never seen, to a master suite that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the room was filled with candles and more roses. It's beautiful, Maya breathed. It's ours. Dante wrapped his arms around her from behind. This whole wing is our family quarters. Zoe's room is right next door. I had it decorated, but you and she can change anything you want. This is your home now, Maya. Really yours. That night, as they made love for the first time as husband and wife, Maya felt something she'd never felt before. Complete safety. Not just physical safety, but emotional safety. The safety of being wholly known and wholly loved. Ti amo, Dante whispered against her skin. I love you too, Maya replied. More than I knew was possible. But their peace was short-lived. 3 days after the wedding, while Maya and Dante were having breakfast with Zoe, his phone rang. The way his expression changed told Maya everything. I have to go, he said, already standing. It's urgent. What's wrong? The Calabresi family just made a move, a bad one. He kissed her quickly. Stay here. Don't leave the mansion. I'll have extra security posted. Dante, I love you, trust me. Then he was gone, taking half his men with him. The hours that followed were torture. Maya tried to act normal for Zoe's sake, playing games and reading books, but her mind kept wandering to worst-case scenarios. When the call came, she almost didn't answer the unknown number, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Moretti, a woman's voice, cold and professional. You don't know me, but I'm calling from the hospital. Your husband has been in an accident. Maya's world stopped. What, is he? He's alive, barely. He's asking for you. The hospital was chaos when Maya arrived, leaving Zoe with Rosa despite her daughter's tears. She'd made Dante promise that Zoe would be safe. She would not break that promise just because she was terrified. She found Dante in a private room, surrounded by his men and doctors. He looked pale but conscious, his left arm in a sling and bandages visible beneath his partially open shirt. You're alive, she gasped, rushing to his side. Takes more than a car bomb to kill me, he joked weakly, then winced. But don't tell them I said that. They're trying to get me to rest. A car bomb? Maya's voice was shrill. Someone tried to kill you with a bomb? The Calabresi family's last desperate move. He reached for her hand with his good arm. It's over, Maya. For real this time. They crossed a line and now they're finished. Every family in New York is turning on them. They're done. You could have died. Tears streamed down her face. You could have died, and I would have had to tell Zoe that her father was gone before she even got used to having one. I know, I'm sorry. He pulled her down to kiss her. But I'm alive, and I'm coming home, and we're going to have a boring, normal life for at least a week. Despite everything, Maya laughed. A week. I'm trying to be realistic. Over the next few days, as Dante recovered, the full story came out. The Calabresi family had planned to kill him at the wedding, but couldn't penetrate his security. So they'd tried a car bomb instead. But Dante's men had been expecting something, had checked his car, had found the device in time. The family was now scattered, their leadership arrested or in hiding. The threat was truly over. Does this mean we're safe now? Maya asked one evening as they lay in bed, Dante still healing but insisting on being home. Safer, he corrected. There will always be some danger in my world, but the immediate threat is gone. And I promise you, I'll never take unnecessary risks. I have too much to live for now. Maya snuggled closer to his good side. We should tell Zoe what happened. Age appropriately, but she deserves to know. Agreed, tomorrow. He kissed her head. Tonight I just want to hold my wife and be grateful I survived to do it. The conversation with Zoe the next day was harder than expected. Her daughter's eyes had filled with tears when they explained, carefully, gently, that someone had tried to hurt Dante, but that he was okay and the bad people were gone. But what if more bad people come? Zoe asked, her lip trembling. Dante knelt down to her level, ignoring the pain it caused his healing body. Then I'll keep you and your mom safe, just like I always have. That's what dads do, Principessa. We protect our families. Promise? With my whole heart. Zoe had hugged him then, careful of his injuries, and whispered, "I'm glad you didn't die, Papa." "Me too, baby. Me too." That night, as Maya watched Dante read Zoe a bedtime story, his arm still in a sling but his voice strong and steady, she realized something profound. She wasn't afraid anymore. Oh, she knew there would be other dangers, other challenges. This life would never be completely safe, but they would face it together as a family, and that made all the difference. When Dante joined her in bed later, she turned to him. "I have something to tell you." "Should I be worried?" "Probably." She took a breath. "I'm pregnant." Dante's eyes went wide. "What?" "I found out yesterday, but with everything happening, I didn't know when to tell you. And I know the timing isn't great." He kissed her, silencing her rambling. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "The timing is perfect. Another baby, another reason to be better. Thank you, Maya. Thank you for giving me this life." "We gave it to each other," she corrected. "That's how this works." As they held each other, Maya thought about how far they'd come. From a humiliated maid being told she didn't belong to a woman who'd found her place in the most unlikely of circumstances. This was her life now. Complicated, sometimes dangerous, but filled with more love than she'd ever dreamed possible. And she wouldn't change a single thing. 2 years later, Maya stood in the garden of the mansion, their home now, watching Zoe push her baby brother Marco in his stroller. At 6, Zoe had become the most devoted big sister, constantly checking on the baby, bringing him toys, singing him songs. Dante appeared behind Maya, wrapping his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about? How different life is now." "Better different." Maya turned in his arms. "The best different." She touched his face, noting the few grey hairs that had appeared at his temples, the laugh lines around his eyes that came from smiling more than he ever had before. "Do you miss it? Your old life?" "Not for a second." He kissed her softly. "This is everything I never knew I wanted. Even though it's messy and chaotic and Zoe left slime in your office chair last week." Dante laughed. "Especially because of that. That's what family is, beautiful chaos." They watched their children together, comfortable in the silence. Maya thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, afraid, struggling, invisible. That woman seemed like a stranger now. "Maya," Dante's voice brought her back. "Thank you." "For what?" "For taking my hand that night, for choosing to stay, for giving me everything that matters." He turned her to face him fully. "For seeing the man I could be instead of just the man I was." Maya smiled. "You did the same for me." "Then we're even." "No," Maya said, kissing him. "We're better than even. We're home." As the sun set over New York, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Maya Johnson Moretti felt something she'd chased her whole life finally settle into place. She belonged. Not because someone told her she could stay, but because she'd chosen to. She'd chosen love over fear, hope over safety, partnership over independence. And in return, she'd found something rare and precious. A family built not on blood or circumstance, but on choice, on fighting for each other, on believing that love, real, deep, protective love, could transform even the darkest parts of life into something beautiful. She'd been told she didn't belong, but she'd found her place anyway. And it was perfect. This story has come to an end. If it touched your heart in any way, leave your like and share it with someone who also loves powerful emotional stories. New stories are coming soon. Until next time.